Go ahead with your opening statement, Coach, and then we'll go into questions.
All right, good morning, and thanks for being here. You know, the season's off to a really great start. We got our first win against a really good Illinois State team. You know, anytime you play a team from the Missouri Valley, you got a lot of respect for them because there's a lot of great players in that conference and a lot of great coaches. Last week's game, they had some ups and downs. Okay, we had some ups and downs, but when you watch the film, our guys played extremely hard in all three phases. Regarding the tight ends and fullbacks, I thought it was a good, productive day. Okay, but there's a lot of room for improvement. Multiple tight ends and fullbacks saw reps. Majority of reps we went to Luke Lachey, Addison Stringer. I think Luke had like 58 snaps. Addie had 47. Really great to get Luke back and healthy and playing. Really excited about him just being able to be with us and thought he had a really good, productive day. And congrats to him for being nominated for the William V. Campbell Award. And that just says testament to who he is as a player, also his efforts off the field in the community and academically. This week, we're obviously facing a tough opponent with a good Iowa State team, another competitive team that's well coached. They got veteran guys on defense. I think they got 8 returning starters defensively, four of those guys being all conference. But, you know, with that, open up for questions.
All right, Coach, first question will be from Scott Docterman.
How you doing, Scott?
Hey, I'm great, Abdul. How are you doing today?
Awesome.
Oh, good. Wanted to ask you about this series. You played in it. You won a couple of games. You lost some tough ones. What was it like for you as a player to compete against Iowa State, and then, you know, spin it forward 20 years now? What's it been like to try to coach in this rivalry, just knowing maybe there's a little bit more outside interest, noise, what have you?
Yeah, it's an awesome series. Both teams been very competitive. You know, I think the last couple of times we played them, it's been a one-score game. So even when I was a player years ago, you're going to get those guys best. You know, Iowa State is a really good team. Right now, they're really humming on defense. They got a lot of guys back. And as a coach, it's the same thing. We know they're going to show up ready to play, and it's going to be a 4-quarter game. And our guys got to be ready to go. And right now, we're trying to improve consistently. We just finished our 3rd day of practice. So all in all, it's going to be a hard-fought match. And we got to – I know it's a great series, great rivalry for the state, especially for, a lot of the in-state guys. Myself, being a guy from Florida, you learn – as you come to Iowa, you learn really quickly how important this game is, not only for our players, but also the community and throughout the state of Iowa. So we're working. We're trying to improve and trying to learn and trying to grow. And hopefully we can take a jump from week 1 to week 2 and get ready for the game.
Next question is from Corey Breda.
How you doing, Corey?
Good. How are you doing?
We're doing great.
Can you talk about the development of a couple of young guys, one being Grant Leaper, and then I know Michael Burt just got to campus, but can you talk about his upside and what you've seen from them early?
Yeah, I'll start with Grant. Grant's a kid we recruited, saw him play his senior year, which was actually his first. He only had 1 year playing high school football. And most of the time he's been playing basketball and some other sports. But Grant came in and he worked his butt off. Last year he spent a lot of time on the look team, on the scout team, trying to really get in his reps. This year I think he's improved tremendously, but obviously I think he has some ways to go in order to, before we can actually put him on the field. But he's a kid. He's about 6'5", 240. He's doing everything we tell him to do. He got tremendous upside. He's a great kid. He's smart. He worked hard. It's just a matter of time. He keep working and keep putting his head down and trending up. I think we'll see him at some point. And in terms of Michael Burt's a kid, obviously from Omaha. Was great, to get him as part of our team. Michael Burt, very similar to Addison Stringer in terms of his personality and who he is. He's very detailed. He goes extremely hard off the field, in the weight room, and obviously on the practice field. So he's a guy that's really improving at a fast pace. And if he continue to grow at the rate he's going, I wouldn't be surprised if he can get some reps this year.
Next question, Coach, from Mitch Fick.
Morning, Coach.
Morning.
Wanted to ask you about another young guy who kind of got thrown in there last year with Luke and Eric being out, but I imagine Zach's not going to average 40 yards a catch for his entire career. But what has his path been? I imagine he probably would have been up for a redshirt year last year if there weren't injuries. But what have you seen from him? Is he a guy that can, again, not 40 yards a catch, but can he take the top off a little bit and maybe be kind of an explosive tight end there?
I hope he continue to get those explosive plays for us because it helps tremendously. But Zach as a true freshman coming in, just really impressed with his ability to prepare. just prepare and study and understand the game plan as a true freshman last year. And going back to last year, I think it was game 5 or 6, I think game 6 when we played Wisconsin, when, Eric kind of went down and he got kind of thrown in. He was ready. He got in. We didn't know how exactly he was going to do, but we knew, we give him an opportunity that he knew what he was doing, and I think he rose to the occasion. Fast forward this year, Zach's a guy that I see him as a one. I think we got 4 guys that's in the mix. I think last week you saw Lachey, I think, had 58 snaps. Again, I think Addy had about 47. Zach had about 12. And hopefully we can get him some more reps. I think we got 3-4 guys that could be in there anytime, and I look at them with the first team. And Zach's one of them. I think he has a huge upside. He got really great ball skills. I told him if anybody interview him, ask him about that catch, tell him I taught him how to catch, which I didn't. That's his background with volleyball. He played basketball. He's an athlete, come from a really great family and background. But I think Addison, there's no limit to what he can. Zach Oatworth, there's no limit to what he can do, and I'm excited about his development, and he'll continue to get better.
Next question is from John Steppe.
Hey, Abdul, good to see you. Thanks for doing this.
For
Wanted
sure.
to ask you about Gavin Hoffman. Kind of speaking of young guys, what's kind of stood out to you since he arrived on campus?
Just like most of our freshmen coming in, when we recruit them, you hope that those guys can run. You hope that those guys love playing football and love working out, and that's kind of what jumps off tape when you watch his tape. He's a guy that can run, he can fly, but he's young. Most of those guys in high school never really put their hand in the line of scrimmage and actually learn how to block. So his upside's in the passing game, but just like most of our guys, with the techniques and fundamentals, got to learn how to block. But I'll tell you, he allows us to coach him extremely hard. Gavin works hard, and he's a guy that's going to continue to trend up. And he's a guy that I think if he puts his head down and work on the field and off the field and in the weight room, I think he'll be able to help us. I'm still here. You guys still there? You hear me?
Chad, go.
All right, I'll just go. Looks like I'm next in the queue. Iowa State obviously run the 3-3-5 defense.
Yep.
And they have some, injuries at linebacker right now. How do you see them matching up with your tight ends in that scheme, which you don't see that often?
How do I see the linebackers matching up with the tight ends?
I mean, how do they try to take away your tight ends in a 3-3-5? Is it the safeties? Is it the linebackers? What do they try to do to you?
I think when you look at their defense is obviously very unique in terms of the way they structure it and having that extra guy who is in the back end, which we call the star, but also in the run fit, you add an extra hat. What we have to do, we have to be fundamentally sound. We have to be on top of our game. We got to see the pictures, because a lot of times they'll be in a 3 down and then it can slide to a 4 down. Sometimes that star, it could look like 3 guys, 3 deep, when really it's a 2 shell look. So they try to confuse you. So we just got to make sure we preparing. We look at the tape, we see in the pictures, but really what's going to come down to is our guys being really good with their fundamentals, playing hard and finishing plays. And when we get the opportunity to make a play, okay, make that play. And if you look at last week, not trying to look back at last week, but in that first half, it took us a while to get going. There were some opportunities that we left on the table as a whole. And this week, we need to take advantage of it. So whatever they give us, we'll try to take advantage of it. But more importantly, we kind of got our hands full. That's a unique defense. They've been doing it for a long time. It causes confusion in the front and also in the back end. So they can change the pictures at the last minute. What our guys just got to look at the tape, continue to detail our work throughout the week, and we'll roll it out on Saturday and see how it looks.
Tom Kakert.
Hey, Abdul. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well, Tom.
Wanted to ask you about the fullbacks and kind of limited snaps. How would you kind of talk about the usage of fullbacks in this new offense?
Yeah, I think with the fullback position, if you look at take Hayden Large, for example, last year he was our primary fullback, and he started at the position. I think with this new system, they're not just limited to playing the fullback position. If you see Large, most of the spots that he lined up at is really the F off the ball. He's lining up as a tight end. And I think it allows our fullbacks to get on the field with a little bit more snaps because what they're asked to do is very similar to being at the fullback position. So it requires a unique skill set, which I think a guy like Large works well for because he came in as a tight end. We moved him to fullback. Now we're kind of using him in that fullback slash H-back position. So I think it allows our guys to play more snaps. But we're not going to be in the, we don't have the 21 personnel like we did last year. You may not be seeing that. I think that's what you're alluding to. But I think we can put those guys in the game in some of the 12 personnel sets and let them work.
Corey?
Abdul, whatever you can speak to on Johnny Pascuzzi, it's not often that we get a player that enters the portal and then retracts his name and returns back. So just the impact of having a fourth-year guy who I'm sure probably could have been on scholarship somewhere else this year, given what he did and what he's done here. Can you just talk about his leadership and what went into that decision to return to school?
Yes, let's go back to last year, right? Last year, let's go back to the Wisconsin game. In the Wisconsin game, when you look following up to that game, Luke Lachey got injured game 3. And then in that game, Addison Stringer had a medical issue that he couldn't travel with us. Then in that first quarter, so Eric All gets injured. So tight end 1, 2, and 3 are out. So next thing you know, Johnny Pascuzzi is one of the guys that actually had to step up and play, along with Zach Otworth, who I mentioned a while ago. And he did a tremendous job. I feel comfortable, and we as a staff feel comfortable at any time putting Johnny Pascuzzi in the game. He has really good blocking fundamentals. We got a lot of guys, and it's my job to get as much guys on the field as possible because it's going to be a long season. I didn't think he saw a ton of snaps last week. Thought he saw about 5 or 6. But at the end of the day, I feel really, really good about putting him on the field and being able to execute our offense. So hopefully, if we get into a lot of reps being played on the offensive drive, maybe you see them, maybe not. But, those guys are preparing. I got a great room. Those guys work their butt off. There's about 14 guys in the room, including 2 fullbacks. And at any time, I feel really great about a guy like Johnny going in the game and execute. In terms of the transfer portal, that's a process kids have to go through. Whatever is best for them. I think he wanted to see what opportunities were out there, and we respected his decision, and we just told him straight up, listen, man, put your name in the portal if that's what you want to do. But just know if you decide to come back, obviously we'll take you back with open arms, which we did. So really glad to have him here because we need the depth. We need everybody. If you guys look at last year, is an example, right? We come into the season expecting Luke Lachey and Eric All to set the world on fire. Next thing you know, you're playing with Steve Stilianos, which did a great job, Johnny Pascuzzi, and Zach Otworth. So we got to get everybody ready. And that's why I tell those young guys like Micah Burt and Gavin Hoffman and Grant Leapers, like your butt may be in the game this year. So you need to prepare. You need to be ready. Don't look at the depth chart and start doing the math, because at any point you may be up and we're going to need the next man in.
Scott?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about number 1 on your chart, and that's Luke Lachey. And I remember the first time he had a pancake block. It was at Maryland 3 or 4 years ago, and he was so excited. And Sam Laporta was like, "Okay, it's all right," for the first time. But he went from being a really good athlete, long, tall, to now being, you could see he's a full service tight end in every facet. Yep. And what areas has he grown the most over the last 1.5 to 2 years? And what's his potential? Because he looks to me like he's fallen in line with his predecessors who are all making, $8 to $10 million a year.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I've noticed with Luke is his growth in leadership. When I got here on staff in 2022, it was Sam Laporta was the top tight end, and Luke was kind of at the number 2 spot, and he was doing his role. He was being ready when his number was called. And then as the season went on, you saw that growth towards the end of the season, which you guys saw. And then if you go back and look at last year, I think he took a huge jump. Luke knows his natural ability is going to be in the passing game. He's a big, long athlete. Usually guys his size, 6'5", 6'6", 250, they're not as fluid and a great of athlete like Luke is. But in the run game, he's been working. Our practice is structured in a way that we put a lot of time in our run blocking fundamentals. But the work he's also doing in the weight room with those guys with Coach Brightway and his team. So all in all, I think the program is structured to allow guys to improve. And if guys stick with it, I think if you come up and you show up for work and you go to practice and you put the work in, if you're not getting better, I don't know what you're doing. So as long as you show up, you give great effort, you listen and you follow directions, guys are going to develop. And I think that's what you're seeing with a guy like Luke Lachey. And he's it's been paying off for him. So we'll continue to moving forward. Looking at last week, he had a good productive day, but there's some plays we left on the table. There's some things we got to do. And Luke knows if he wants to be a guy that we talk about years from now, he got to continue to work. And I think he's taken that as a challenge, and he's given us a lot of great leadership, which he did last year, even though he wasn't playing. So really excited about him. Just need to continue to keep him healthy. He's one of our better guys. He's a playmaker for us. He's a great team leader. Even last year when he got hurt, and I'll say about this, what I respected about Luke, even though he wasn't on the field, he still showed up every day. And I know it was tough for him to kind of watch guys play and not be able to be out there with his teammates, with his brothers. But my hats is off to him. He put his head down. He worked. And so happy to have him back on playing for us.
All right, Coach, 2 more questions. First one is John Steppe.
Curious your thoughts, kind of first game with the new offensive system. What were kind of your impressions from that? Anything that team kind of still needs to do in terms of adjusting to this new system?
I think it's going to be a continued work in progress. A lot of people will ask, okay, well, how you guys going to do the first game? I'm like, I don't know. We're going to roll it out and see what happens. And that's kind of what we did. The great thing is we got the first game under our belt. We got some film. I think we played 71 snaps, so 70 plus snaps. So there's a lot of film for guys to watch and get better at. And with the new offense, it's revolving. It's something that we got to continue to work at. We got to keep detailing it out. But I think our guys, our players who I'm talking about, very impressed with them. This new system came in. They put their heads down. Everyone's fully bought in. And I think it's going to be a team effort. If you look at last week, we kind of took a while to kind of get going. And hopefully in the second half, what we saw in the second half is everybody kind of was clicking a little bit. So obviously every week is different. This is a new challenge against a really good Iowa State team. And we're working, just finished our 3rd day of practice. Still got a few more days to get better, and we'll see.
All right, last question, Abdul, will be Tyler Tashman.
Hey, Abdul, hope you're doing well. I guess just obviously for someone that played linebacker, what was that transition like to coaching tight ends, and some of the challenges with it, and what do you feel like has kind of just allowed you personally to have success coaching that position at Iowa?
Yeah, great question. I think first and foremost, there's a lot of carryover when you look at both positions. I'm talking about the tight end position and the fullback position. They're a very important piece in the run game, and they're also a very important piece in the passing game. And obviously, those guys compete against each other on the field. But last year was a great 2022 when I got the opportunity to come in here and coach tight ends and also fullbacks. Don't forget about my fullbacks. They get mad when I forget about them. But the tight ends and fullbacks, it was just a learning curve, But if you work hard at it, if you show up every day, willing to learn, willing to grow, understanding that the minute you enter the room, the players know way more than you, right? But so you got to have a little humility. You got to understand. And what I did was try to let Sam Laporta and Luke Lachey teach me how to coach the position. So, you coming in 2022, and what better room to have a guy like Sam, I have a guy like Luke, and I would say Monty Potterbaum. He was a huge, him and Turner, Palisade. Those guys was huge in terms of my development because they gave me some really great how-to videos. Okay, well, this is how it looked. And when you use the players to get better, Sam would run a route, and then he'll come off the field, and I'll say, okay, Sam, what did you see on that, or what was your thoughts? So I try to get information from them because we underestimate how those players. They're the ones taking all the reps. Like we had 70-some reps on the field offensively last week. Not one coach took a rep. So obviously those guys getting a lot of information, and their coaches on the field. So you can actually use those guys. And then at the end of the day, football is football. It's going to come down to fundamentals. It's going to come down to leverage on the line of scrimmage. It's come down to really pressing vertical and trying to get open when it comes to the passing game. But you got to do your research. You got to learn. You got to grow. But I'm a guy that, I love challenges. I love kind of feeling uncomfortable. That's what keeps me up at night, 3, 4 in the morning. So, but all in all, it's been fun. It's been great. And being part of a system that utilize tight ends, 12, 13 personnel sets, you're in a really great spot because that position is valued. and you got a lot of great guys in the room to help you push everything forward. So it's been fun. It's a blast, but like I say, tough challenge coming up this week, and we'll continue to work. We'll continue to detail our workout and get better, and with our mental prep, we'll roll out on Saturday and see what it looks like.
All right, perfect. Appreciate your time this morning, Abdul.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Have a good